Friends, it's Sister Marla Clerks from St. Elizabeth and Seton Parish. I've been in full-time parish ministry now for 32 years. And a couple of things that I learned early on and have tried to carry with me throughout those years are, first of all, that you don't have to do everything yourself. And not only that, you shouldn't try to do everything yourself because, on one hand, you're denying the gifts of others who can help you. And secondly, when you don't know things, it might not turn out the best. I especially appreciated that in the areas of buildings and grounds where people would come to me with a problem or a situation and they would lay it out very clearly, but then they would also offer their suggested solutions, their answers to what we should do to um, solve that problem or address that issue. I always appreciated that. They came with the problem and they also came with a solution. The other thing I learned from a good priest mentor friend was that there's always a way. That when you look at something and it seems like there isn't an answer, or there's a roadblock or a stumbling block, that you look at it instead of saying, how can I find the way to address this? I think of those two things as we look at the reading from the Acts of the Apostles today, where the Hellenists were complaining because their widows were being neglected in the daily distribution. So they brought forward the problem to the disciples, and the disciples looked at it and said, well, let's call the community together. Let's figure out how we can do this. Let's find that way. So when they called the community together, they asked for those who would be able to serve at table to make sure that no one went without. And they selected a number of people to do so. So they brought the problem, they brought the situation, and they found that easy answer. But they were able to do so because they first went to the community. They didn't try to solve it by themselves because they knew they already had enough to do with spreading the word. And so they called upon the gifts of others to bring them into the community, to bring them into addressing the issue that was going on, but also to allow them to use the gifts that they were given. You know, sometimes we look at problems and are listening to solutions and we think to ourselves, if only it were that easy. But friends, there are times when it is that easy, especially if we begin to look beyond ourselves, if we seek the advice of others, if we call on the community to use their gifts, to offer their suggestions and their ideas, because we don't have to try to do it by ourselves, and there is always a way. So even when we look at some of the main issues that are happening not only in our community but throughout our world, like homelessness and hunger and loneliness, there are many people who have stepped forward already to help address those issues, to help alleviate those struggles. We too are called to do what we can, to use the gifts that we have been given, the gifts that we've been given not only for ourselves, but the gifts that we have been given for the sake of the community. Because together, if we really try to follow the example of the early church in saying, let's call people together, let's see who has the ideas, who has the wisdom, who has the gifts, and who can step forward to serve in that capacity. Because if only we allow others to share their gifts, if only we allow the community to offer their suggestions, if only we're open to see things in a different way, then we will be able to meet the needs of the people around us.